My son, incited by my husband's concubine, refuses to acknowledge me as his mother. You're not my mother. Auntie Lan never forced me to study, she's my real mother. Father has only me as his son. What's wrong with me being playful? Auntie Lan said even if I don't study, the entire princess's mansion will be mine someday. Gazing at the young boy standing in the courtyard, my heart grew bitterly cold. Xinghuai, the son I bore after 9 months of hardship, now regards me as his enemy. I've repeatedly exposed Lady Lan's schemes, trying to make him see clearly, yet at 10 years old, his hostility toward me only deepens. If that's the case, then let this mother-son bond be severed. Someone, bring Lady Lan here. Lu Xinghuai immediately protested. What are you doing? Take it out on me, but don't touch Lady Lan. The young boy stamped his feet in agitation, but this was my princess's residence, his urgency was futile. Soon, Lady Lan was brought before us. Her phoenix-like eyes sparkled with cunning, her thick, jet-black hair cascading down her back. With such a pitifully charming appearance, it was no wonder both her husband and son had turned their hearts away from me. I cut straight to the point, sparing her any pleasantries. Xinghuai says he wishes to be your son. Are you willing? This humble concubine is terrified. I only wish to remain by the prince consort's side. I dare not harbor any improper desires. I glanced at my foolish son and sneered, did you hear that? You want to be someone else's son, but the very concubine you adore doesn't want you. Impossible. The young boy slid to his knees beside concubine Lan, looking like a wounded cub. Auntie, you clearly said before you wanted me to be your son. Just say it. If you say it, from this day forward, I'll be your son. For another woman, Lu Xinghuai knelt without hesitation. I closed my eyes. Young master, don't be ridiculous. You must have misheard. I snorted softly. Whether he misheard or not, he got one thing right. If you agree today, Lu Xinghuai will be your son from now on. Lan concubine was stunned. And rightly so. Throughout history, no matriarch had ever adopted her son under a concubine's name. Of course, I have a condition. Lu Xinghuai wore an expression that said, I knew it. He spoke coldly, what is your condition? Don't think you can do as you please just because father isn't home. An ungrateful wretch. Better off without him. 9 months of pregnancy, 1 day of childbirth. Since you wish to sever our blood ties, repay me for my nurturing kindness. I won't make it difficult for you, 30 strokes of the cane. That will sever the mother-son bond between us. Are you willing? The young boy didn't hesitate for a moment and agreed immediately. Aunt Lan beside him was overcome with grief and cried out, Young master, you mustn't. How can your precious body endure punishment? Let me take the beating for you. The display of deep mother-son affection right under my nose still stung me. Hold your tears for now. Let me clarify, it is he who seeks to sever our mother-son bond. This is called breaking ties, not punishment. Of course, you share responsibility. Having received such a fine son for free, you too shall receive 30 strokes. Are you willing? Auntie Lan startled, hesitating. Auntie, rest assured. Once today passes, I shall honor you faithfully henceforth. Closing her eyes, concubine Lan bowed her head deeply. This servant consents. I gave a cold laugh and signaled the servants to begin. Smack! Smack! Blood soaked through both their garments. Lu Xinghuai clenched his lips, silent, but the delicate concubine Lan couldn't endure it and fainted. I ordered servants to splash her with cold water to revive her, but this only enraged Lu Xinghuai completely. You venomous viper! She-devil! You did this deliberately. If anything happens to concubine Lan, I'll report you to father and have you punished severely. He managed to spew all that without feeling the pain. Didn't you eat breakfast this morning? If you're so weak, you'd better leave the mansion now. My princess's residence doesn't keep idle hands. Seeing I was genuinely furious, the servants no longer held back. Soon, the two were reduced to whimpering in pain. By the time the beating ended, the prince consort had returned. He opened his mouth to reprimand me, but I shut him down with a single sentence. You can't even discipline a child, what use are you? Tomorrow I'll petition His Majesty to select a new prince consort. Once the imperial decree arrives, you and your woman and child will vacate the main courtyard to make room for the new one. What did you say? Gone hard of hearing in your old age? I said I'm replacing the prince consort and kicking you out. Got that? Everyone in the courtyard, including that mother-son pair, stared in utter disbelief. Perfect. I loved that reaction. The emperor is my brother, my own flesh and blood. This little matter was child's play. I summoned everyone in the princess's residence, even the night-soil-emptying old man, to stand behind the prince consort and hear the decree. The prince consort's face turned ashen, while Lady Lawn beside him swayed unsteadily. Heh, I'd just shattered her world. After dismissing the eunuch who delivered the decree, I smiled at the prince consort. Prince consort, oh, no, I should say Liu Shijun, did you hear that clearly? Shall I repeat it for you? Must you humiliate me like this? Humiliation? I am a princess of the imperial family, a sovereign, while you are a subject. No, you hold no official rank, merely a commoner. Every drop of thunder and dew is the emperor's grace. Must I teach you this principle, Liu servant? The newly appointed Liu servant's eyes were bloodshot, his hatred seething beneath gritted teeth, yet he could only swallow his bitterness. Since you understand this principle, kneel and express your gratitude. I could feel his murderous intent, but I wasn't afraid. Refuse to kneel? That wouldn't do. Liu Shijun doesn't know how to show gratitude. Teach him. Two servants appeared, one on each side, forcing him to his knees. Aren't you afraid of my Liu family's retaliation? I am afraid. That's precisely why I transferred your eldest brother to serve as an official in the capital and arranged for your second brother to marry the fourth daughter of the Wang family, a legitimate heiress. It's a matter of mutual benefit. The rise and fall of our clan far outweighs your personal grievances. Believe me, your mother now greets me with far more warmth than she ever showed you, her own flesh and blood. You. Liu Shijun slumped to the ground, his gaze upon me filled with unfamiliarity and profound disappointment. I never imagined 11 years of marital affection meant nothing to you. Affection? Have you ever heard of a prince consort in this dynasty taking a concubine? We made it clear from the start, I brought you home with a lavish wedding procession, and you were to serve your wife and raise our children. But what did you do? Take a concubine, humiliate your wife, seize our son. I indulged you, did that give you the right to forget your roots? That fool Liu Xinhuai has been duped by concubine Lan into coming to argue with me again. I love my mother and choose to be her child. Since you couldn't bring yourself to take it out on me, you tormented her instead? Her hands are covered in frostbite. This ingrate changes his tune rather quickly. Since I'm in a good mood today, I'll have a proper chat with him. First, you must understand this crucial fact, your father is merely an accessory. I paid the dowry to marry him. Out of respect for you, I let him serve as prince consort for 11 years. Now that I no longer want him, kicking him to the curb, what's wrong with that? But what did my mother do wrong? She's been quiet and obedient. Why should she have to do those menial chores? Liu Xinhuai, you're 10 years old now. Don't you understand such a simple principle? Don't you know that princes consorts in this dynasty are forbidden to take concubines? My turning a blind eye doesn't mean his actions are justified. Your father is merely a court attendant, what right does he have to keep another woman? I only reluctantly allowed her to stay as a maid to your father to spare your family the pain of separation. That's already showing mercy. Maid? Liu Xinhuai blinked, struggling to grasp the logic. He pressed his lips together, silent for a long moment. I made no hurry to prod him, lazily nibbling at the fruit platter as I sat at the head of the table, watching him ponder. After waiting nearly 15 minutes, the young boy's face flushed crimson as he stammered, then, "Could you please, for my sake, let my mother remain as a concubine?" Liu Xinhuai's voice grew fainter with each word, until it was barely audible, like a mosquito's buzz. I tapped my ear, amused. What did you say? Speak up. Who are you whispering to? Liu Xinhuai's fingers clenched tightly around his sleeve cuff, his face tense with hesitation. I noticed, however, that his sleeve seemed a bit short. Judging by his expression, he hadn't even noticed. But it didn't matter. The weather was growing colder day by day. Though this child was a bit slow, he knew to add layers when the cold set in. Indeed, no matter where you go, people always treat you differently depending on who you are. Why abandon the life of a legitimate prince to become the son of a maid? I'm certain this child takes after his father, that soft-headed fool who can't tell right from wrong. Lu Xinghuai took a deep breath and spoke again. I mean, could you do this for my sake? I waved him off, cutting him off. In what capacity are you speaking to me? Hesitation flickered in the youth's eyes, but quickly hardened into resolve. As the son of concubine Lan. I've told you, there is no concubine Lan in this household. Only the maid Shui Lan. Today I'm in a good mood and won't hold it against you, but next time you speak out of turn, don't blame me for punishing you. Lu Xinghuai seemed furious, charging at me like an enraged young bull and bellowing, why won't you leave us alone? You're powerful and have everything, why must you torment our family? My mother has nothing left. What more do you want? My gaze hardened, my mood unsettled by this brat. Torment? Every action I take follows the rules. Look around this mansion, which maid doesn't work? Is she the only precious one? If you're so worried about her frostbitten hands, why don't you do her work yourself? Your father dotes on her, doesn't he? Why don't you two help out together? You're all just waiting to be waited on. Stop complaining about too much work if you're too delicate. You don't have the birthright to be masters, yet you dream of living in luxury. It's pure fantasy. The youngster was silenced by my retort, his slightly ragged breathing betraying his fury. You say I should spare you out of respect? What respect do you command? You're just the son of a servant, do you really think you're a master? Not making you work like the other household sons is already a special favor. If you keep throwing tantrums in front of me, don't blame me for showing no mercy. Just you wait. My mother is such a good woman, I'll make sure she lives in comfort. I chuckled. It's been ages since I've seen such ambition in you. Fine, I'll wait for you to pass the imperial exams and earn your mother an official title. If she's so wonderful, why didn't she come argue her case herself? Why send a half-grown brat like you? She must truly adore you. Lu Xinghuai puffed up with indignation, his voice brimming with resolve. That's because I care for my mother, unlike your harshness. Just you wait, I'll pass the next imperial examination for sure. You pass? My name will be written backwards on the list. You believe that? But I didn't argue further. He simply wasn't cut out for scholarly pursuits. What others grasped in a day took him 3 to master. When I pushed him to study, I never expected him to pass the exams. I simply wanted him to understand the world, so he wouldn't be at a loss for conversation when mingling with other noble sons. His knowledge might be limited, but his character and worldly wisdom must be exceptional. Once he's proven himself capable of handling responsibilities alone, I'll petition my imperial brother to grant him a marquis title, securing his lifelong prosperity. But he has his own ideas, and I've given up trying to control him. If he thinks serving as a servant's son is better, then so be it. I only hope he never comes crawling back to me. Seeing the courtyard filled with men, my head maid, Qingzhu, gaped in shock. Princess. What are you doing? I flicked my crimson gauze robe aside, revealing a sliver of pale arm. Could my meaning be any clearer? Of course I'm seeking amusement. These men were carefully selected from the scarce few in the Imperial Music Bureau, each possessing unique talents. Princess, weren't you still requesting His Majesty to select a new prince consort? If the future consort learns of this, what will we do? Qingzhu panicked, but I remained unperturbed. You silly girl. That was just talk for Lu Shijun's ears. Recruiting a prince consort is such a hassle. What if we end up with another disobedient one? Am I unhappy with my life now? Why must I bring a prince consort home to add to my troubles? I took Qingzhu's hand and commanded the 8 men below to lift their heads, allowing Qingzhu to see clearly. Look at these 8. They're talented, skilled, and handsome. Most importantly, they're obedient. If you like, I'll reward you with one. Qingzhu recoiled at my words, waving frantically and retreating behind me. Princess, do you intend to take all 8 of them? Of course not. Have the imperial physician examine them shortly. Select 3 or 4 with robust health to serve as attendants. The rest shall remain in the princess's residence, dedicated solely to playing music for me. Qingzhu furrowed her brow slightly and asked, Princess, should we prepare the contraceptive potion? Thinking of that unfilial son, I couldn't help but curve my lips upward. No need. I'm actually in need of a son. This one is useless, so I'll just have another. I refuse to believe I could raise another ingrate. After the lamps were lit, my courtyard was brightly illuminated, the sounds of stringed instruments and flutes filling the air. 8 handsome men attended me, 2 massaged my legs, 2 served my meals, and the remaining 4 played music. Qingzhu, my personal maid, could only stand by, neglected. I sensed tonight promised to be utterly delightful. Yet this exquisite atmosphere was utterly shattered by Lu Shijun's abrupt intrusion. What are you doing? Poor Lu Shijun stormed in, pointing at my 8 handsome men, trembling for a long moment. He seemed furious. Can't you see for yourself? Are you blind? I thought I heard a very faint gasp. I seriously suspected Lu Shijun had been so enraged he nearly fainted. Have you no sense of shame? 8 men? Is that a problem? No. None of your business. Right in front of him, I stroked servant No. 1's hand. He was quite the catch, immediately stopping the leg massage and asking, Princess, is the pressure just right? Perfect. Just the right pressure. I gave him a your excellent look, then pinched a cherry with my nail-polished fingers and fed it to him as a reward. Lu Shijun stared dumbfounded, looking utterly flummoxed. I beckoned, and the 4 new attendants obediently knelt beside me. You're all brothers now. Meet them, attendant number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. I pulled all 4 into my embrace, looking thoroughly satisfied. I expected Lu Shijun to fly into a rage, but instead he asked, What about me? Why don't I have a number? The moment the words left his mouth, he seemed to realize his mistake, visibly growing annoyed. I chuckled, feeling a bit sorry as I told him, You don't rank. These were all new attendants brought in to serve in the bedchamber, nothing like him, that old rotten melon. These 4 were fresh, beautiful young men. You're an old hand in this household. Don't compete with the new brothers. If there's nothing else, you should go back. It's time to rest. Lu Shijun, who had just calmed down a bit, exploded like firecrackers again when I mentioned rest. I won't allow it. How can you do this to me? And what about Xinghuai? How is he supposed to live with himself? I sneered coldly, Were you being fair to me when you took a concubine? Were you being fair when you let your mistress sow discord between Xinghuai and me? Don't forget, you're no longer the imperial son-in-law. You're just an unloved attendant. Xinghuai isn't my son anymore either. I gave him a chance, but he chose to reject it. I had Lu the attendant dragged out. My romantic inclinations vanished completely, not a single attendant ever stayed the night. Princess! Princess! General Zhu has arrived, bearing His Majesty's imperial edict. Still half asleep, I didn't register immediately. Which General Zhu? Zhu Yi. A deep male voice echoed as the door swung open, revealing a towering figure stepping inside. I was instantly wide awake. Zhu Yi was a man who killed without a second thought. Standing before me, he commanded respect without needing to raise his voice. I admit, I was a little intimidated by him. Before we were married, I once witnessed him, in a fit of anger, cleave a subordinate who bullied men and women in the palace in 2 with a single stroke of his sword. The blood splattered onto my face. Ever since, I'd tremble uncontrollably whenever I saw him. My princess's dignity crumbled completely in his presence, so I'd always carefully avoided him. Qingzhu had been practically inseparable from me these past years. She was naturally terrified too, but she steeled herself and stepped in front of me. General Zhu, this is the princess's private chamber. How dare you barge in? Zhu Yi flung the imperial edict before me, then turned and sat on my bed. One hand, calloused and strong as a vice, forcibly pulled my foot from beneath the covers. The other hand gently stroked my toes, the bright red nail polish preventing me from pulling back. Shall the princess not examine the imperial edict? We're about to become family, no need for such formality, surely? I felt no shame when flirting with handsome men, yet this situation made my face flush crimson. Gritting my teeth, I unfolded the edict. My brother's handwriting was unmistakable, but reading its contents nearly brought me to tears. Zhu Yi, refined and courteous, a gentleman of the highest caliber? And so he is bestowed upon me as consort? I turned the edict over and over, examining it again and again, still unable to believe my elder brother had written this. Could he have been replaced by a rebel? I hear the princess acquired 4 new attendants yesterday. Should this consort be angry? Zhu Yi's hand was still caressing my foot. Shame and fear made me tremble slightly. What should I say? I was truly terrified he'd think he'd been cuckolded and suddenly yank my foot, tearing me in two. It really wasn't my fault, only the deep shadow of my teenage years to blame. The defiance I'd shown before Lu Shijun had long since vanished. By the rules, princess consort of this dynasty cannot take concubines, but princesses are permitted to keep attendants. Only, with fewer princesses in recent years, some regulations have faded. I'm clearly in the right here, why should I feel guilty? Forget Zhu Yi, I don't want anyone. I just want to spend the rest of my life alone with a harem of handsome men. Why must they force a prince consort upon me? I stormed into the palace to confront my imperial brother, only to be turned away. After much maneuvering, I finally cornered him in the hall of mental cultivation. Brother, do you think my life isn't miserable enough? Don't you know what kind of man Zhu Yi is? I've feared him since childhood. Of all people, you had to choose him. Are you deliberately trying to ruin me? I rattled on, not giving him a chance to speak. Only when I finally finished did he respond, calm down. Your imperial brother had no choice. I couldn't have secured this throne without Zhu Yi. You know the man, he won't rest until he gets what he wants. He declared he must be your consort. If I refused, you'd be the one suffering in the end. My brother spoke the truth. Zhu Yi was indeed a bit mad. I knew I couldn't blame my brother entirely for this matter, and my expression softened slightly. My brother pressed his advantage, urging me on, think about it. Your life of luxury and peace, wasn't it all earned by Zhu Yi with real swords and blood on the battlefield? You've just taken on a few new attendants, haven't you? So what if Zhu Yi becomes your prince consort? The princess's mansion is still yours to command. While this made logical sense, something felt off, but what exactly? Zhu Yi has trained in martial arts for years and is in peak physical condition. Do I really need to spell out the advantages? My brother pressed. Just wait patiently for the wedding. If you truly dislike him, take in more attendants. He wouldn't dare object. He wouldn't dare say anything, he'd probably rather split me in two. Do you think any attendant could survive under his watchful eye? My brother was stumped by my question. After pondering for a while, he came up with a half-baked idea. If too many were lost, I could always pay for you to buy a few more. I was thoroughly impressed, yet knew this marriage was inevitable. On the wedding day, my smile looked more painful than tears. Wasn't I the emperor's own sister? Why was I denied even this small freedom? I replayed every happy moment of my 27 years in my mind, then approached the altar with a heart heavy beyond measure. Next came the wedding night festivities, but sadly, no one dared to participate. Zhu Yi had drunk some wine. In the flickering glow of the red candles, I vaguely sensed his eyes seemed to turn red. In an instant, scenes from old storybooks I'd read flashed through my mind. Was Zhu Yi, this murderous maniac, about to transform? Though the thought was absurd, I couldn't help it, I was terrified. He approached step by step. The scent of alcohol mingled with faint bamboo fragrance drifted into my nose. My heart raced on this, the wedding night of a princess of the imperial family, not from passion, but from fear. How utterly humiliating! I curled myself into the corner of the bed, but this demon had no intention of letting me be. His large hand seized my wrist and yanked me into his embrace. Terrified, I cared not for shame anymore. My voice cracked with tears as I cried out, "Please, don't split me in two." I felt his hand pause slightly on my wrist, and my heart leapt with hope. Silly. What did that mean? But soon, I had no strength left to think. As the first light of dawn touched the horizon, I finally understood the meaning behind my brother's cryptic smile that day. The next morning, when I woke up, Shui was already gone from the bed. I breathed a long sigh of relief, feeling as though I had finally come back to life. Looking at the marks on my body, I felt incredibly fortunate to still be alive. Where is Shui? Is he practicing martial arts? His Imperial Majesty had graciously permitted us to delay our gratitude ceremony until the afternoon. Men truly understood men. The prince consort. He's in the rear courtyard, summoning all the princess's attendants. I sensed trouble immediately. By the time I rushed over, I heard Lu Shijun's agonized cries. The scene was horrifying. Attendants 1 through 4 knelt in a row, with 4 more handsome musicians kneeling behind them. In the courtyard's center stood Lu Shijun. Shui, whip in hand, stood beside him, lashing him mercilessly. Blood splattered the ground. For a moment, I hesitated whether to intervene. Should I meddle in this clash between the new and former imperial consorts? Upon seeing me, Shui sheathed his whip, planted his foot on Lu Shijun's face, and uttered only one sentence, "Don't let me catch sight of you. Every time I see you, I'll beat you." Then he approached me with an innocent, harmless expression. At that moment, I desperately wished he'd continue beating Lu Shijun a little longer, buying me enough time to escape. See? I was right. With Shui in the mansion, my Shijun was bound to bleed to death right there. And this was only the first day. The days ahead felt endless. Suddenly, I felt like I'd brought this upon myself. But was it really my fault? Barely a month after our wedding, Shui coaxed and tricked me into agreeing to divorce Lu Shijun, banishing both Cui Lan and Lu Xinghuai from the estate along with him. Though his wounds hadn't fully healed, Lu Shijun insisted on seeing me one last time. As he limped inside, my gaze drifted involuntarily to Shui. That was way too brutal. Would he be crippled for life? As my thoughts churned, I felt a searing gaze upon me. Lifting my eyes, I met Lu Shijun's stare. Gone was his usual haughtiness, replaced by a faint sorrow. Sorrow? Because I divorced him? It was indeed humiliating. You received the divorce papers, correct? I don't want to leave. I was momentarily speechless. What did he mean? He didn't want to leave? The divorce papers had been issued, there was no room for negotiation. How could a divorced person still live under the same roof? Most importantly, Shui was still sitting right there. Continuing this conversation would surely earn me another beating. But this time, he was stubborn. Even as Zhu Yi's eyes nearly shot flames, he persisted in asking me, "Do you have absolutely no feelings left for me?" None. In my youth, I'd merely chosen a suitable husband from among the many noble sons eager to marry into the imperial family. So even after Lady Lan entered the picture, I hadn't been particularly heartbroken. Had Lu Xinghuai not disowned me, I wouldn't have cared whether he had other women. Ultimately, it was because I didn't love him. Everyone knew this marriage contract was merely a transaction of interests. Having a son was all I needed, as long as he didn't overstep, I cared little for the rest. Towards him, I felt no affection. Perhaps there was once familial affection, but it too had been worn away by the daily grind of life. Upon receiving my answer, Shui wouldn't allow Lu Shijun to remain in the room. Grabbing him by the collar of his robe, he simply hauled him out. After living in constant fear for several months post-marriage, I gradually discovered that Shui wasn't so bad as long as you didn't provoke him. He just had a tendency to be clingy, always managing to stay within my line of sight. Especially this past month, it's been unbearable. Finally, I'm pregnant, and he's quieted down. Now I can leave with peace of mind. He flashed a satisfied smile. And it was actually quite handsome. Days later, watching him in full military gear, waving goodbye atop his tall horse, my heart felt strangely heavy. Turns out the border had been restless lately. He knew he'd have to quell the unrest sooner or later, which is why he'd been so clingy this past month. His goal? To plant a seed inside me, all under the guise of preventing me from cheating. What a petty man. Before leaving, he even used my own good as an excuse to send all 8 of my handsome men home. His reasoning? He feared I'd get jealous seeing them, so it was better to send them all away. I was utterly speechless. This was clearly my princess's mansion, yet its master seemed no longer to be me. I could only console myself. Chui was a man who gave even my imperial brother headaches. It was only natural that he had me wrapped around his finger. After becoming pregnant, my morning sickness was particularly severe, leaving me weak and listless. It wasn't until Lu Xinghuai came looking for me that I learned of Cui Lan's escape. After several months apart, he had grown taller and his skin had darkened considerably. "How are you feeling?" Perhaps because of the pregnancy, I felt no schadenfreude at seeing him. I had once imagined that when he discovered the mother he chose wasn't as perfect as he'd imagined, I would humiliate him thoroughly. Yet now, my heart was unusually calm, devoid of any satisfaction from revenge. I motioned for him to sit and had Qingzhu serve him a cup of tea. These greens were grown by my own hands. They're worth little, but Lu Xinghuai kept his head bowed, unable to meet my eyes, as if struggling to speak. I was utterly shocked. Had their lives deteriorated this much in just a few months? I had planned to send someone to check on them once Xu Yi's sensitivity had eased. But my pregnancy delayed everything. After a few brief exchanges, I grasped the situation. After leaving the estate, the Lu family feared offending me and dared not take them in, so they were housed in a small dwelling. Lu Shijun regretted his actions, but it was too late to do anything about it. He drowned his sorrows in drink daily and sometimes took it out on Cui Lan. Naturally, Cui Lan wouldn't let it go after being beaten, so she vented her anger on Lu Xinghuai. Chui continued to send Lu Xinghuai some silver each month, though he never mentioned it. When I first heard this news, I was stunned at first, then felt a warm glow in my heart. He was afraid I might regret it later. Perhaps I could try to understand him. Cui Lan, harboring resentment, endured it for several months before fleeing with all their belongings, leaving not a single copper coin for father and son. "So you came for money?" No. Lu Xinghuai jumped to his feet, visibly shaken. In just a few short months, he had become utterly out of place in this princess's mansion, despite our shared resemblance. "I only came to see you. I won't take any money." Lu Xinghuai lowered his head slightly and whispered, "I never thought she would treat me like this. She promised to love me, to treat me like her own son, but she lied to me. From the moment we're born, we encounter all kinds of people. Not every word spoken to please you is trustworthy. Wouldn't you agree?" The youth nodded, seeming to understand yet not fully grasping. "So she tricked me into being her son just to live better in the mansion? I was just her tool, right?" I didn't answer him. He already had his answer, perhaps it was just his pitiful pride playing tricks on him. I sent men to recapture the fleeing Cui Lan. The once beautiful girl now looked pale, her hair dull and brittle. Her once lively eyes had lost their sparkle. Seeing her suffering put my mind at ease. This troublemaker won't get away with this. "Wait! You're pregnant?" "No. I'm not." Cui Lan denied it, yet her hand instinctively covered her stomach as she took small, hesitant steps backward. "Summon the court physician." A smirk touched my lips. If she was indeed pregnant, it would be rather convenient. Stealing another's child wasn't enough, she deserved to taste the agony of mother-child separation. Soon, the physician confirmed it, Cui Lan was indeed carrying a child. What a coincidence. You're pregnant too. Why not stay in the palace and keep each other company? Thank you for your kindness, princess. This humble servant dares not disturb your highness. I stepped before her, pinching her chin to force her head up. I'm not negotiating with you. If you obey, I might spare your life. Don't even think of running away, and don't you dare attempt suicide. Otherwise, I'll send your parents and younger brother to join you in the underworld. You'd better think carefully. You're so cruel. I smiled. Thank you for the compliment. Chui finally returned before my delivery, beaming with joy as he cradled our 2 newborn sons. See? I'm the real champion, 2 sons at once. That Lu third must be green with envy. I rolled my eyes, baffled by men's inexplicable competitive drive in such matters. Now that the household was clean, I refused to believe these 2 boys could grow up to be ungrateful brats. Time flew by, and before I knew it, Chui Lan's daughter was already 6 months old. From the moment she was born, I hadn't arranged for a wet nurse. After all, the bond is deeper when you nurse your own child, isn't it? I'd let her care for the baby for 6 months. She must have formed some attachment by now. Lu Xinghuai happened to be visiting. I wanted to hear from Chui Lan herself why she deceived her. Today was the day, her good fortune was about to end. I brought Lu Xinghuai to Chui Lan's room. Oh, what an adorable little baby! Chui Lan was startled by our sudden appearance. I motioned for Qingzhu to bring the child over, but Chui Lan clutched her tightly, refusing to let go. Chui Lan. Her gaze met my warning stare, and she slowly loosened her grip. With the child in my arms, Chui Lan grew even more tense, her eyes fixed on us without blinking. I was quite pleased with her reaction. This little bundle was actually quite lovely, soft and plump. Chui Lan's anxiety over her daughter was all too clear to Lu Xinghuai, an intensity he'd likely never witnessed before. I'm taking the child. I'll order your parents and younger brother released. As for you, pack your things and leave. No. Chui Lan knelt at my feet, clutching the hem of my skirt and banging her head against the ground. Princess, please don't. This humble servant knows she's wrong, truly wrong. I'll never dare again. Punish me instead, but don't take the child. She's so small, she's my very life. Chui Lan was in pain, but it was too late. She's your life? When you incited Xinghuai to turn against me, did you ever think he was my life too? I was wrong, princess. Punish me however you wish, I beg you. This is my punishment for you. I want you to taste the agony of mother and daughter torn apart, never to meet again. Of course, this punishment is nowhere near enough. I beckoned 3 sturdy old maidservants inside. They pried open her mouth and forced down a bowl of abortifacient. Now that's more like it. From this day forward, you can bear no more children. You'll spend your entire life agonizing over whether your daughter is well fed and warmly clothed. Will she marry a respectable man when she grows up, or be sold like merchandise to some old man? Or perhaps forced into a brothel by villains? Daughters cause more worry than sons, don't you agree? Chui Lan knelt at my feet, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. She could only weakly kowtow to me, begging for a change of heart. But I wanted her to wish she were dead. I waited outside the door with the infant, waiting for Lu Xinghuai. Today, I would make him give up hope completely. Are you all right? Lu Xinghuai reached to help Chui Lan up, only to be pushed back, stumbling. Get lost! You bringer of misfortune! If not for you, how could I have lost my daughter? Lu Xinghuai seemed accustomed to Chui Lan's tone, showing little emotion. It was you who insisted I be your son. You told me I didn't need schooling. I only followed your words. That was your stupidity. I wasn't infertile back then. Who would want to raise someone else's son? I just wanted to ruin you, drive a wedge between you and your mother, and eventually register my son under the princess's name to inherit the princess's estate. Who knew you'd be such a fool, believing everything I said? So you've been deceiving me all along? Yes. Even in my favored position, I dared not defy the princess. I merely stirred things slightly, yet you reacted so violently. Left with no choice, I had to acknowledge you. My downfall today is all because of you, you fool. I truly regarded you as my mother and wanted to serve you well. Chui Lan's eyes flashed, then go beg the princess. Beg her to return my daughter to me. If you bring my daughter back, you'll still be my son. The light in Lu Xinghuai's eyes extinguished. I led my men away from Chui Lan's courtyard. As we walked off, I faintly heard the word mother echo behind us. I looked up at the sky. The evening glow today was truly beautiful, fiery and radiant. And